Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Calling All Devs, the weekly Q&A series where I take questions from you, the Star Citizen backer, and pose them directly to our developers, usually over Skype. We are getting things started this week by going to our Manchester, United Kingdom office and Foundry 42's own Ross Hopwood, who's a system designer working on, we're going to find out in a second. Ross, how you doing, man?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. You?
I'm doing well. Now, Ross, this is your first time on Calling All Devs. Well, congratulations.
Cheers. It is.
It is your first time, right? We've done like
Yeah, it
30
is, yeah.
some odd episodes. Yeah, okay. For those who may not know who you are, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
So I'm Ross Hopwood. I'm a system designer at the UK office.
Okay, now we have a lot of systems designers. What sort of things do you work on?
A lot of the active feature team work. So any player movement, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, then I definitely have the right person then. We've got a question from the backers. This was submitted by the backers, was voted on by the backers. It says, with it being so difficult to find a perfectly flat area to land, will we eventually be able to grab and pull ourselves up to a landing ramp or elevator pad that may not fully reach the ground on uneven terrain?
Okay, so not currently because this would basically be mantling, which we have a vaulting and mantling system, so being able to jump up and over things or jump up onto things. But currently everything is manually set up, so we've got a lot of manual markup. Something that we do want to look into is procedural markup for vaulting and mantling. So the scenario that you've just described, basically, if the height requirement for the surface that you want to jump onto, so the lift is high enough to justify having to mantle up onto it, then in the scenario where we have the procedural markup, then you'd be able to do so. If it's low enough, obviously you can just jump onto it. But,
right.
Yeah, that's something that would hopefully be covered, with this procedural method.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Does this play into the motion walking thing? I know we just highlighted that on ATV recently.
Yeah. So the last ATV we covered, we basically used our current vaulting and mantling system to prototype motion warping. So what that is it's extending animations for periods of time so that you can have them, you can extend whatever animation that it is that you want. This can only work for animation driven motion, by the way. So it's anything that once the animation's playing, it's going to move the player somewhere whilst the animation's playing. So what we did was, because all of our animations for vaulting and mantling were kind of specific to specific metrics, to be able to jump over a specific wall of a specific depth, that kind of thing. Now what we can do is have one animation that has every part of that. So the part where you climb the wall, the going across the top of it, and then the exit. And then what we can do is mark this up now to extend it. So we can say this wall is 2 times the length of what the animation would have been, but the animation, that section of the animation where you're climbing over the top, can kind of be extended for this new depth. So that's what motion warping is basically. And we use that for vaulting and mantling. So yeah, that's really cool. It's a lot smoother. Because previously the segments of the animation were all separate. So now we're able to stitch them all together, and it's like a very nice, smooth transition from one to the next. So,
awesome. Yeah. Awesome, and if you haven't seen it, check out ATV. I believe by the time this airs, it will be the episode that just aired. You'll see some visuals, since this is the show where we have visuals. You'll see the visuals there. All right, Ross, I'll let you get back to work, man. Thank you so much.
Okay, cheers.
Right,
see you later, mate.
Take care. All right, thanks so much, Ross. Now moving just another floor. I don't know if he's a floor up or a floor down. We'll ask him. We're going to David Cole. Names. We're going to David Coulson, gameplay programmer. Dave, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, thanks, Jared.
I'm really glad you heard me mess up your name there.
That's okay.
I'm not great at names, but when you mess up something like David, you're especially
Coulson's
bad.
more acceptable to mess up, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. All right, how you doing, man? Good. Welcome to Calling All
Good,
Devs.
thanks. Good. It's nice to be here.
Now you're a gameplay programmer. I think this is the first time we've had you on Calling All Devs. I don't think we've ever had you on a Reverse the Verse either.
Nope, I don't believe so.
We're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that before the year's out. Just heads up. We just introduced Ross Hopwood to the community. Let's take a second here. Tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
So I'm David Coulson. I'm a gameplay programmer that works on IFCS and flight physics and sometimes vehicles. I help out the EU vehicle team as well.
Okay. Well, then I definitely have the right person. We got a question that's been submitted by backers. It's been voted up by backers. I think it's probably a pretty quick answer, but I'm going to see if we can squeeze any more information out of you here. The question is simply, why can't we decouple at cruise mode anymore without losing speed?
So that's a bug, plain and simple. It's not the intention. In fact, the whole kicking you out of cruise is really not ideal, and we're going to move toward a variation of cruise where that's not the case. So I know there's situations not only where you get kicked out of cruise because you're in decoupled, but you get kicked out of cruise because you're, say, using a dual stick setup and you slightly move your left stick or whatever, and then you get kicked out, which is really frustrating. So end goal is that you actually don't get kicked out at all, and you can cruise and move around slowly because you're going really fast. But that was the intention. And right now, decoupled kicking you out of cruise is absolutely a bug. That's definitely not what we want. So yeah, we'll just try and fix it, and hopefully you can you'll hopefully be able to do that, and in future you will not get kicked out of cruise at all, which I think will feel a lot nicer.
Cool. Do we have that on a roadmap yet? I haven't tried to think of that. That's on the roadmap.
I don't actually know. Bugs, I don't think small bugs like that would be on the roadmap.
Right.
But it's on our to-do list anyways.
Okay.
On my to-do list.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have an update as we get closer to whenever that comes online, because I know the kicking out, when you said the dual stick thing, that was like, yes, I've heard that for
that
a
experience
while.
is a bit frustrating at the moment, because
Yeah.
I think the way that cruise was designed as it is now is that you need to be traveling forward to get into cruise speeds. But that means if you're using a dual stick setup and you slightly move your stick to the left, you're not strictly traveling forward, so it kicks you out, which is just annoying. So we'll get that fixed.
Gotcha. I like dual stick setup, but most of the time when I play, and I don't get to play a whole lot, I'm confined to mouse and keyboard because I'm at a workstation. It's covered with a bunch of stuff. I don't have a room for a setup. But the few times I do get to play with a
dual stick, so much fun.
Yeah. It's not nothing against HOTAS people. Throttle is classic and stuff like that. I just like the dual stick setup. All right, man. I'll let you get back to work. Thank you so much, dude. And keep an eye out for that RTV invite. It's coming. Not soon.
Thank you very much, Jared.
You got something. All right. Bye.
See ya.
All right, thanks so much, David. Moving to yet another floor in our Manchester, UK office, Andy Nicolson, systems designer at a Foundry 42 UK. Andy, how you doing, man?
Hey, Jared. I'm good, thanks.
It's systems designer, right?
It is now, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just
this week it is systems.
Shh. Hey, the only constant in game development is change. All right,
Yes.
So I got a question from you. This is from the backers, voted on by the backers. With Hurston being planned for release in the near future, currently scheduled for Alpha 3.3, are we going to see a big change in atmospheric flight? Now this comes up quite a bit. I think I can remember from the beginning of the project here, the big debate about how ships will handle in space versus how they will handle in the atmosphere of planets that, of course, have atmosphere. Not every planet has atmosphere. Those changes haven't. Well, I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk about. Are there differences between atmospheric flight and outer space flight now? Are we happy with them? And what can we say about the future?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they are very different states for the ships to be in. And I think there's a lot more to do, and I know we're kind of not happy with where things are at the moment. I know people, like community backers, aren't happy with the differences between the two states, between space flight and atmospheric flight. A lot of that comes down to the tuning of the ships. We've got like two very different systems in place. So they are, like, the tuning of the ship is very different. It's just that it's not different enough. We've got, like, we have drag, for instance, is the obvious one that is affecting ships, and it wasn't so noticeable before, I think 3.2.
the last big batch of IFCS improvements that John made really made it a lot more noticeable. It's really just, as I say, it comes down to the performance of the ships and allowing the atmospheric differences to affect the ships more, and that's what we're working towards. For 3.3, it's looking unlikely that there'll be that much difference, but we are working towards updates and improvements to it.
Gotcha. Now, when you say it's not likely to be that much updates, that's because the Hurston that we intend to roll out with 3.3 is what we commonly refer to as a Tier 0 implementation. It's 3.3 is more about getting the planet itself in and the object container streaming and all the assets and stuff like that. Current moons we have like Yila and Selin and whatnot don't have a whole lot of atmosphere at the moment, so the big atmospheric changes haven't been absolutely necessary up until this point.
True, yeah.
While Hurston, we do intend Hurston to have a breathable atmosphere. I was asking around in this, so forgive me for jumping on with this, but our first 3.3 implementation won't have the full atmospheric flight changes that we're intending. But we are intending them. I think that's the more valuable part of that.
I mean, IFCS isn't done by any means, and we're still working on it. We're still forever talking about how it should work and what we're going to do next. Atmospheric flight, we need to come back to it. We need to, especially from the design point of view, just making sure those ships are different enough. And as you say, the density of the atmosphere is going to be much higher on Hurston than the moons we have already. So we need to really notice that. It needs to be considerable consideration for the pilots.
Cool. So not something that folks should expect for 3.3. Although maybe we'll be surprised, but I wouldn't expect it for 3.3 in the rollout. But it is something that we want to work on. It is something that I know I've heard Chris talk about in the past. He wants that tangible, that sense of difference between flight and atmosphere. As for what that will entail and for what details and how that will present itself, I'm going to say stay tuned. We've got some stuff in the works for you as far as getting that information to you. So not going to go too far into it right here, but just stay tuned. All right, Andy, I'll let you get back to work, man.
Okay.
I know this is the absolute highlight of your day when you get asked to do this stuff, so I appreciate you taking a few moments to do this with me.
It's sadly true. Yeah.
All right. I'll see you then.
See you, Jared.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy Nicolson. Now, finally done with Manchester, United Kingdom, coming back to our own Los Angeles, and Kirk Dome, systems designer here out of, I was going to say Foundry 42 LA, but nope, never mind. Kirk, how you doing, man?
Hey, good. How about yourself, Jared?
I'm all right. Anything other than names, man. All right. So, Kirk, I got a question for you. It's from the backers. I know, even the company name. I was messing up the company name. From the backers, voted on by the backers. This one comes up quite a bit. This is an oldie, but a goodie here. Will there be a way to pursue and evade people traveling through quantum?
So we haven't actually gotten to designing or implementing that feature yet, but I know that what we want to do is we want to be able to have a system which you can scan or just somehow be able to detect the quantum travel trails that people leave, so that you should be able to see that a ship has taken that particular QT course, and now that we have curved QT trails like the paths, you should be able to determine where that course had led them to. I think we ought to do things like be able to detect maybe ship type, other things like depending on what we do for our evasion or stealth skills, might be able to detect things like the owner of the ship or the pilot, the faction of the ship, maybe where its last known destination was, and when it traveled to that time. So it generally a snapshot in time of when that ship had actually traveled that course and whether it's worth pursuing them. I think once we get that system in, then we'll determine what we're going to do for evasion. So, ways in which you can like mask that data or mask the trail itself, maybe have it tied into the quantum drive itself, or some kind of technique in which you actually do your quantum travel, the calibration for it could be tied to it, but we haven't quite gotten to that point yet.
And then, of course, we've talked about in the past just the scale and grade of the items themselves, like maybe and just pulling letters and numbers out of the air here, like a grade C scanner can detect quantum travel trails from a quantum drive of grade C or lower. But if you've got a quantum drive of B, maybe the emissions are less, that you can't, a mix of components used to find things and components used to do things.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
So the grade of them and like the quality or can determine maybe the signal strength level. That's that should be a minimum level that you so that you can detect these things. I think something that'd be interesting would be if there are really common like routes that people take for trading, and you see a whole bunch of very close together quantum travel trails. It might be a good place to put some kind of the quantum introduction net. It might be like catch the next guy that's doing some cargo transport and catch him in your spider web.
Very cool. Yeah. Virtues of commonly traveled lanes versus the virtues of not. Because you might even be able to, if it's a commonly traveled lane, that might even be a way for you to mask yourself in.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, it's in some cases it would be dangerous because that's where people would put interdiction fields. But in other cases, if you're trying to hide in plain sight, you might choose to do something illicit in a commonly traveled thing so that your trail masks in with all the others.
Right. We were talking about some ways in which we could have like smugglers. Like bins inside of the interiors of some of the ships, so you can put cargo in there that you don't want to be detected either by scan or, I suppose by this quantum travel trail detection. So even if you do get interdicted, get boarded and scanned, they don't find your salacious cargo that you've been doing.
Yeah, there might even be something coming up in the near future that might take some advantage of some of that, and that's all I'm going to say at this point. You just nod knowingly. All right, Kirk, thanks so much. I'll let you get back to work, man.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. Well, that's it for this week's show. Special thanks to Ross and David and Kirk and Andrew. I did it. 4 names for taking their time to be on the show with us this week. Remember, you can submit your questions for consideration each and every week up in the thread up on Spectrum, and don't forget to vote. That's the 2-prong plan. You got to submit your questions, you got to vote your questions. There's a brand new August thread up now, so you never had a better chance than right towards the beginning of the month to get your questions seen and voted on. So for Calling All Devs, I'm Content Manager for Global Video Production, Jared Huckabee. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.